Welcome to Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wilding in the stand. For laid back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gon' be our year. We're here drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring. Yeah.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds TV, a YouTube channel for Sacramento Kings fans. Sorry we are a little bit late this evening. Had to do a little bit of extra work today.
Life happens.
Life happens.
This is the Royal Rebounds Podcast with Calvin and Barry. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know it's late, but we're here. We're drinking beers, as we'll get to in a second. On today's show, Kyle Guy and Nick Stauskas are back in Sacramento. Something's in the water with Kevin Porter Jr. and Antonio Brown. What is going on with these guys? But most importantly, the Kings win 115-113 over the Miami Heat. Time for a nightcap.
All right, welcome back, guys. So we're here, we're drinking beers, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. If you are a Kings fan, make sure you smash up that like button down below. And if you enjoy content like this, if you like the Kings, if you like beer, if you like us, hit that subscribe button as well. Calvin and I are here for fun. We get paid in likes, so make sure you hit that button. So, Cal, Richaun Holmes enters into health and safety protocols. Many Kings fans got their wish. Damian Jones started tonight, which is crazy because it seems like just one or two podcasts ago we were talking about how everyone's like, wow, maybe he could be the starting center and all this and all that. I feel so bad for Richaun Holmes because it just seems to be like something new every day. He gets injured, he comes back, he's injured again, he comes back. Now he's out in the health and safety protocols. I have no clue how long he'll be out for. It's really open-ended at this point. But most important thing, Sacramento Kings win tonight, 115-113 over the Miami Heat. Buddy Hield tried to ruin it at the end there for us, but Jimmy Butler couldn't close the game out.
Man, yeah, Jimmy Butler got a really good look there at the end. That I'm still surprised that shot didn't go in. But I'm even more surprised that the Kings didn't fall apart in the third quarter. They got down, I think it was 77-71 there midway through the third quarter. And my first reaction was, shit, here we go again. They kept it close for so long. I felt like at that moment, things were going to start to unravel again, but they didn't. The Kings actually held it together. De'Aaron Fox played a fantastic game today. Career high in free throw attempts, 15 free throw attempts. He hit 14 of them. The Kings just made enough plays down the stretch here to win this game.
Yep.
Which is something that I feel like we don't or haven't really had the ability to say that often this year.
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the chat for joining us. Sorry we're a little bit late. Mike, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to win my fantasy football championship. Dalvin Cook did not do his thing today, and it really got me. But that's okay. Second place is still in the money. Not many bragging rights, but it's okay. I'll take a little bit of money there. So, jumping into the game here, as you mentioned, we got to see Kyle Guy tonight and his flow. I think his hair is much longer than yours.
It's more volume, more full than mine, more curly than mine.
He's got a better hairstylist, I guess.
I guess so. He's got more money than me, so he should have a better hairstylist.
And we also got to see Nick Stauskas return to Sacramento as well. I know Vivek Ranadive probably loved to see him in the building. He was a big Nick Stauskas fan. One thing that really surprised me today, the Kings started out really hot in this game. They were up 22-11 in the first quarter. They were up at halftime, finished the third quarter tied. They were pretty much in control of this whole game. I know they were down a little bit, but they were up 11 at one point, And they were in this entire game. They brought a lot of energy. We got to see a career high in assists for Tyrese Halliburton tonight in 12. De'Aaron Fox scored, I think, 24 big points tonight. We had a huge contribution for Buddy Hield shooting. 7 threes for him tonight. Other than a few mistakes in the fourth quarter, it seemed like every time the Kings started to get away, or the game started to get away from them, Buddy Hield would hit another three and bring them back, which is something that you and I have been critical of in the past. Don't shoot these threes, but everyone loves them when they're going in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the Kings flat out would not have been in this game without Buddy Hield tonight. He 7 of 14 from three. This was just one of those nights where he got going early, and he was able to maintain that consistency from three. And when the Kings have that dimension, that added three-point threat out there, it just makes them a flat-out better team. I mean, we've talked about building this team the right way, if Tyrese Halliburton is your guy, surrounding him with consistent outside shooting. This is a perfect example of that. Yep. If Buddy Hield is going to be the guy who's going to consistently knock down shots from the perimeter, it gives the Kings an added threat shooting-wise, offensively. It really balances out their offensive attack with De'Aaron Fox constantly attacking the paint. So it's a picture-perfect scenario for the Kings. The problem with this picture is that Buddy Hield has not given them that consistent outside threat. And it's different than just a shooting percentage flat rate, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Buddy Hield is a career 40% three-point shooter. But the problem is you can be a 40% three-point shooter and still not give the team the right effectiveness.
Yep.
Because you end up going 2 for 13 one night and 8 for 12 the next night. But tonight, he did what he needed to do. He did what the Kings needed him to do. And more importantly, they got some critical defensive stops there in a close game in the second half.
What's up, Kings? Good to see you in the chat. Yeah, when I was watching this game, I was just thinking about all these records. Buddy Hield broke Page's record this year. He won a three-point contest last year. He was second in threes after Steph Curry. This year, second in threes. And it just makes me wonder, if Buddy Hield's on a team like the Miami Heat or a good team, I don't know if he's anywhere close to any of these records, because he can't just go out and shoot 14 threes on any team. And that's how many threes he shot tonight. I know he made half of those, which is good, but I don't see any other team or coach putting up with that when you do have those 2 for 14, 3 for 12 nights, just those nights where you are so off to where you can get up that amount of volume of shots, because it seems to me like Buddy Hield needs the rhythm. He needs all those shots to get going, because we'll see him be, 1 of 7 at halftime, then he'll make 4 or 5 in the third or fourth quarters. So it's just kind of something weird to think about there.
Yeah, he is a lot like Steph Curry in that he needs the shot attempts in order to be effective. He's not one of these guys that can kill you only taking 4 or 5 attempts from the field. And the difference between him and Steph Curry is that obviously Steph Curry is the ultimate king, right, from outside.
Yep.
Even on nights where Steph Curry is not shooting well from three, you're still going to allow him to, he can go 1 of 8, and you're going to say, all right, take another 8.
Yeah.
Whereas Buddy Hield, he might go 1 of 8 and finish 2 or 4 of 16 or whatever, but that's not ultimately going to be what the Kings need to win. They need someone who is going to consistently knock down outside shots. And when I say consistently, I mean not just by a game-to-game basis. It has to be...
Mm-hmm. And you got to take good shots.
You have to take good shots. And as I'm saying this, I'm kind of in my head thinking like this is pointless, because comparing him to Steph Curry is not the right comparison. The only reason that he gets compared to Steph Curry is because he has been able to make at a rate threes that nobody else really has up until Steph. But they're two very, very different players. Steph is still able to control the ball. He still knows when to make the right decision and make the right pass. And Buddy has been prone to turnovers. He's not nearly as good at putting the ball on the floor as Steph Curry is. But it's still a very important point to bring up that the Kings are a much, much more difficult team to defend when someone like Buddy or Tyrese or whoever it is, Harrison Barnes, Chimezie Metu, when someone is really hitting well from the outside with this team that is one of the best teams at scoring in the paint, that makes them an exponentially more difficult team to defend.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And if you're to, name any type of player that complements a guy like LeBron or a guy like De'Aaron Fox that loves to get to the basket, it's going to be a three-point shooter, because if they're knocking down those shots, it really opens up all those lanes and passing opportunities. And, that for me is the big difference in tonight's game was the Kings made shots. Like, we'll talk about it a little bit more here, but for me, that is the main difference is they made shots tonight. And, I want to talk about it a little bit later, but, we talk about shot selection, taking good shots. In that fourth quarter late in the game where I saw Buddy Hield dribble to the corner and then take a horrible shot that hits off the side of the backboard, I was just like, oh, my God, the game is over. Jimmy Butler's going to come down and win the game for them. Yeah. And we're lucky that didn't happen. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But you want to jump here into the box scores?
Yes. Buddy Hield leads all scorers tonight in 33 minutes with 26 points. He was 9 of 18 from the field and 7 of 14 from three. Also had 6 rebounds and 3 assists. De'Aaron Fox, as I mentioned, had a really, really strong game. Even though the shooting wasn't great, he got to the line over and over and over again. 14 of 15, career high in attempts, 5 of 12 from the field, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Tyreese Halliburton, I thought his offensive game was really limited because of the fact that Buddy Hield got off to a really good start early on. He only had 9 points, only attempted 6 shots, but he still had, as you mentioned, a career high in assists, 12 assists, very narrowly missed another double-double, also 3 rebounds. Damian Jones starting in the absence of Richaun Holmes was big time for the Kings tonight. 18 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. In 29 minutes, he was 7 of 10 from the field and 4 of 7 at the free throw line. Those are numbers that we are very accustomed to seeing from Richaun Holmes at the starting center position. And then Davion Mitchell was big for the Kings off the bench again tonight. 12 points on 5 of 7 shooting, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. He also had 1 assist.
Anybody you want to mention on the Heat?
The Heat were really balanced. They were missing a lot of guys tonight. A lot of people are out, either injured or in health and safety protocols. Yurtseven is, I don't know what the deal is with that guy. I can't tell whether he's really good or not. He had a great game for the Kings tonight, or for the Heat, 22 points and 16 rebounds. Really led the way for this team the whole way.
They're so good at identifying talent.
They really are. They always find guys to step up. Caleb Martin is another example of that, who started at the power forward position today, and he's been playing well for them all year long, had 15 points and 6 rebounds. Tyler Hero was good, even though he didn't shoot that well from the field, still ends with 22 points. And Jimmy Butler is just another Jimmy Butler night for him, 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. And somehow missed that wide open gimme shot at the end that would have sent it into overtime.
I thought Damian Jones did a pretty good job closing out there. Not that he really affected the shot or anything.
He played good defense, but it was better offense. I mean, Jimmy Butler just flat out blew that shot.
Yep.
I feel like that's a shot if he has 10 times, he's going to hit it probably eight times.
Yeah. And as they say in the chat, win is a win. Yeah, it was a pretty wild game. I really like what I saw from De'Aaron Fox, especially in the fourth quarter. 12 points of his came in that fourth quarter, and he shot great from the line. 14 of 15, which is a career high. He ties a career high of 14 free throws made in a game. I thought that was really, really big. And everyone that's been bashing Fox, I think that he really silenced the critics tonight.
I think he took a step in the right direction to silencing the critics. When you're that good, the critics are never going to go away. I mean, the Kings could be a playoff team, and there would still be critics talking about how De'Aaron Fox doesn't play good enough defense on a consistent level. He's not a good enough three-point shooter. He's not a good enough free throw shooter. And those might be valid comments to make about all of this or about all of his game. But I agree with you that he, over the past week or so, really ever since he's come back from COVID protocols, he hasn't necessarily scored at the same rate as he was before he exited, but I've seen a better effort from him defensively. There's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes talking about whether or not he is fully committed to this team, whether the losing consistently is starting to wane on him, whether he really, really, truly wants to be in Sacramento. All of that stuff aside, this guy is a fantastic basketball player, and he really, really showed out tonight. So if this is the type of effort that you're going to get from him on a night-to-night basis, maybe he doesn't always shoot with the effectiveness that you are hoping from him, but if he can consistently get to the free throw line and knock shots down, again, this team is just a different team, and they're a lot harder to deal with.
And that's something that you and I had been critical with him, was making those free throws. But if you look, he's improved every season, and he's actually improved his free throw shooting again this season as opposed to last year. So something we definitely like to see. Looking here at the team stats, a couple things that point out or stick out to me. Obviously, the Kings shot way better in this game. I know the Heat ended up shooting like 32% in the first quarter, and then they were just struggling to break out of that the whole game. The Kings shot, almost 8% better from the field, 11% better from three-point range. They got out-rebounded by the Heat, and they also
really got killed on the offensive glass.
Yeah, they gave up a few more turnovers than we'd like. Only 10 in the last game for the Kings, which they lost that game, unfortunately. 16 tonight. But, everything else is pretty even. I just thought that the Kings played a good game, and they made shots tonight. I don't expect them to win this game, every night, but tonight they did because they made shots.
They did. The Heat attempted 105 field goals, and the Kings only attempted 78. That when you're knocking down shots, when you're scoring efficiently, it makes it so much more difficult for the other team to compete. Yeah. And we really saw that. And the fact that the Heat were so much in this game, I mean, they led late in the fourth quarter. They had a chance to tie the game at the end with a really good look at the basket. That's sort of negatively reflecting on the Kings. When you shoot 51% from the field, so much better than your opponent, and you attempt nearly 30 shots less, you should win the game by more than 2. That being said, this is a really good Heat team. They're a good defensive team. Even with all these guys out, they still had a lot of their key players playing tonight. Lowry, Butler, Tyler Hero. And Yurtseven somehow gave them everything they needed for this game to be close. But, at the end of the day, like people are saying in the chat, a win is a win. This is a really good Miami Heat team. This is a game that was totally set up for the Kings to be the Kings. They were in this game early in the first half. They had a lead in the first quarter. Coming out of the locker room in the third quarter, you're thinking, here it is. The Heat are going to come out, hit a bunch of threes, and they're going to dominate in the second half. The Kings are going to lose. But they didn't do that. They didn't roll over and die. They did what they needed to do. They executed in the half court, and they got critical stops when they needed to, and the free throws were of the utmost importance.
Yeah, I agree. I see people talking about Damian Jones here. You want to talk about him a little bit? Awesome night for him. As you mentioned, 18 points, 10 rebounds. The Kings were able to pick this guy up for basically nothing. Yeah. After the Lakers waived him. I think he was with, was it the Sixers or the Rockets before that? I know he bounced onto a couple teams on really small deals, didn't really fit anywhere, and then the Kings were able to pick this guy up, and I like everything that I've seen from him.
I do too. The guy really has a lot to like in his game. I think he's actually very similar to Richaun Holmes in the style of play, except he can do a little bit more than Richaun can. He has a better outside shot than Richaun does. He has a turnaround fadeaway that we don't see from Richaun Holmes. He moves his feet very, very well on the defensive end. He's got just a little bit more size than Richaun does, so he's not as handicapped in these defensive matchups as Richaun is. I think Richaun is a slightly better rebounder than Damian Jones is, but that's simply because Richaun gives more effort. I feel like if Damian Jones gave the same type of effort on the glass as Richaun did, he would be a better rebounder as well. His potential's through the roof to me. He's one of those types of players that is just really young and hasn't gotten the consistent run in this league. Now he's starting to get that, and we're starting to see him feel more comfortable, look a little bit better. I think the Kings can use him in a lot of different ways, or more different ways than they can with Richaun Holmes. You can actually run offense through him as opposed to just using him in the pick and roll.
He's a little bit more physical too. He doesn't get beat up down low.
He's a very, very intriguing player. We talked so much in the offseason about how the Kings need to re-sign Richaun Holmes. That is their number one, or for me, it was their number one offseason task. Just because I knew they weren't going to have much to work with in the free agent market. And Richaun was coming off a career year, so efficient, does a lot of things so well. And he's been really handicapped this year in terms of his injuries, now the health and safety protocols. He's been taken out of a rhythm a lot, but he works really well with Tyrese Halliburton. All that being said, Damian Jones, I think, has a lot of potential in this league.
Yeah.
And he's a player that they have really cheap right now. So in terms of, we talk all the time about improving the roster, making trades, making deals. He's a guy that I would be willing to give an opportunity here and move somebody like Richaun Holmes, despite how much I like Richaun. I feel like Damian Jones has shown me enough that if you had a trade on the table today where you were dealing Richaun Holmes and you were getting back something that the Kings really needed, wing depth, 3-and-D shooting, something like that, a starting power forward.
Yeah.
It's a gamble that I would consider taking because of how well Damian Jones has played.
Interesting. So a little background for you guys. Damian Jones went to Vanderbilt. He's 6'11", 245, was a draft pick in 2016, last pick of the first round by the Golden State Warriors. Spent 3 years with Golden State, a year with Atlanta, a year with Phoenix, and with the Lakers, and he joined the Kings late last season, played 17 games for the Kings last year, and I thought he's done a wonderful job this year. I don't know if I'm as far as you are, and not that you're saying to trade Richaun Holmes, because I don't think you feel that way at all, but it's just this openness to look at the entire roster as a whole and say, how can we improve this team?
Exactly.
And maybe we need to shuffle some guys around to make pieces that fit better. And, I think that Damian Jones definitely gives you a lot more options.
Yeah. And look, Sacramento as a team, in terms of trades, we've talked about it so much. If you're really making a deal that improves the roster, you don't have a lot of options. Like, you have to deal one of your main key rotation players, whether it's going to be De'Aaron Fox or Tyrese Halliburton, whether you're willing to part with Davion Mitchell, Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield. All these guys are, as the team is constructed right now, very important to the success of the team. Whether or not they give it to you on a night-by-night basis, that's another question. But you're going to have to take some sort of risk, some sort of gamble to acquire the type of talent back that's going to improve this team. So I'm not advocating trading De'Aaron Fox or trading Richaun Holmes necessarily, but if there's a deal that I get in return that I'm pretty sure is going to improve the overall talent on this team, it's something that I can't overlook.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the next section here. I would love LeBron on the Kings. I've been fantasizing about that for 17, 18 years. What year is it now? 2022, 18 years now. I've been thinking about LeBron James joining the Sacramento Kings, but it'll never happen. The only way would be if we drafted Bronny James and said, we're not trading him. LeBron, get over here if you want to play with your son. And then LeBron might still say no.
That'd be the easiest way to do it.
All right, so we talked about Buddy Hield. 7 threes tonight for him. He actually made more threes than the entire Sacramento Kings team tonight. You got anything you want to say about Buddy?
No more than I've already said. The Kings needed him to win this game tonight, and they need him to win a lot of games. I mean, if he's going to play like this, then the Kings are a much different team, as I said at the top of this show. The problem is he just doesn't give you that on a consistent basis, and he doesn't even give you remotely close to what this is on a consistent basis.
And it's hard to rely on a guy.
It's very hard to rely on him. He consistently takes terrible shots, and he couples that with making really poor decisions with the ball in his hand, even when he doesn't shoot. When your best attribute is shooting, you can't add all this extracurricular stuff with the turnovers, constantly driving to the basket, taking bad shots. You know, it's a bad shot for him and a bad shot for a lot of other good shooters in this league are two very, very different things. So it's great that he performed the way he performed tonight, because without it, the Kings wouldn't have won this game.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also look back at a lot of games and say, if Buddy didn't do this, or if he didn't do that, or if he didn't take that crazy, terrible shot,
we would have won those games.
Not necessarily they would have won those games, because it's hard to make a determination on one shot or one play that you would have won the game, especially if it's not a one-possession game.
Yep.
But he dramatically decreases the probability that you win that game.
And he's made mistakes in a lot of one-possession games as well.
Yes.
All right, so score list for Harkless and Thompson tonight. Not a lot of minutes for those guys, which is pretty surprising considering there's no Rashawn Holmes tonight. But I think we leaned heavily on Damian Jones, Metu, and we saw Len get some run tonight. 17 minutes for Alex Len, 3 rebounds, 4 points. It's good to see him back, getting back into the rotation here. I was surprised we only saw 20 minutes from Marvin Bagley tonight. 6 points, 5 rebounds. He obviously struggles with bigger guys and people that are physical with him. This Heat team is a very, very physical team. And that's something that you and I talked about, how we want this Kings team to be more physical, to try and body guys, push guys out of the way. Marvin Bagley is not that guy. And, you know, when people beat up on him, when they're physical with him, it shows. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why he didn't play a ton tonight.
Perhaps. I mean, he wasn't really being that effective hitting his shots. Had a lot of open shots from outside. I feel like the Heat kind of had that in their game plan, to where they were going to let guys like Marvin Bagley, Chimezie Metu, they were just going to let them shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, how could you argue with that? Neither of them are really shooting that effectively this season. And the story with the Kings is live by the 3, die by the 3 sort of mentality, where I feel like they get into these, for a team that attacks the paint so well and scores in the paint so well, they somehow get themselves into this mode of, we are going to find a way to knock down shots from 3 as well. And it totally takes away from everything good that they've done offensively, because they fall into these bad rhythms of just continuing to jack up shots, even if they're open shots. You know, Marvin Bagley had a bunch of open 3s tonight, which you would consider good shots.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he's got no one within 10 feet of him. Why not try to drive in a little bit, get a nice floater from 10 feet after you've missed 3 threes, you know? And that kind of credits to what you were talking about earlier, about how if it's a physical game, he can get taken out of his offensive game very easily.
Mm-hmm.
He's been really good this season at being aggressive, crashing the offensive boards, things like that, driving in, trying to get. There have been a lot of shots that I've seen from Marvin Bagley today, these left-hand hook shots that from a defensive standpoint, I'm watching the game and I'm like, okay, he's going to the left-hand hook here. It's so obvious, so obvious. And yet somehow he still makes it. But I'm happy with those aggressive moves, those aggressive shots in the paint, as opposed to there's no one within 15 feet of me. I'm going to jack up another three when I've already missed 5, 3 or 4, whatever the case may be.
Yep. Yeah, Dennis, I wouldn't say the Miami Heat team was fully stacked tonight. They had a bunch of people out dealing with COVID protocols. And it's the Sacramento Kings. That's the MO, right? Lose to bad teams and beat good teams.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And then lose to everybody else in between.
At least this game is somewhere in the middle of, like, we've seen them lose to so many teams, just like the Dallas Mavericks a couple of days ago, that are severely depleted or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this is a game that, you totally could have chalked that up to the same type of scenario. The Heat are losing they're down a lot of guys. The Kings should have a chance here. And then they end up, falling apart in the second half. But the Kings didn't do that tonight.
Yep. Yeah, Jay, and I wish Fox would work a little bit more on all his shots, but, I want him taking threes. Obviously, if he's not making it, and depending on the point in the game and what the score is, I want him driving to the basket and getting to the foul line like he did tonight. But he's a young guy, and he needs to work on his game, and he needs to get these reps and shoot threes in the games. Otherwise, you're going to end up like Ben Simmons, and everyone's going to say, why don't you shoot threes, Fox? Why are you just shooting your mid-range? Shoot three, shoot three, shoot three. And then, people are going to get in their stance, and you're not going to be able to get past people anymore because they're not going to respect your outside shot. Let's see. Joseph wants to know how we ended up in Hawaii. Well, Joseph,
that's an easy question for me. I'm here because of him. He's been here a lot longer than I have.
And I'm here because of the weather. It's nice. It was even overcast today, and it was still, I was wearing shorts. It was like 75 degrees out. It was really nice. I didn't get sunburned today. Maybe I did yesterday at the beach, though. So moving on here, let's talk about HB. Only 10 points for him tonight, 4 of 7 shooting. You and I keep talking about HB, about how he's not the same aggressive guy that we see. Part of me feels like maybe he's just taking a step back to let some of these younger guys take over, because it seems like the Kings have a major issue with everybody sharing the ball and playing well at the same time. It has to be one guy that takes over. It's De'Aaron Fox one night. It's Halliburton another night. It's Harrison Barnes another night. And we don't really see them taking turns mid-game or all playing well together. It seems like one guy has a good night, one or two potentially have a decent or off night. I want to hear what you thought about that.
Well, Harrison Barnes, to me, he's a pretty unselfish player. He's never going to be the type of guy who he knows whose team this is. It's De'Aaron Fox's team, and it's maybe De'Aaron Fox 1A and Tyrese Halliburton 1B. Like, he understands that those guys are the driving force behind this team, and even though he is a legitimate sidekick behind them, somebody who, when he's playing at his best, is a very, very effective player. He's never, in my opinion, going to be the type of guy, and a lot of that probably is because when he came up in this league, he was with the Golden State Warriors, a team that, even though they have their legitimate stars, they share the ball really well. Everybody is always ready to step in when their number is called, and Harrison Barnes embodies that. And the Kings, even though they have a great isolation player in De'Aaron Fox, who you could say, all right, let's just give the ball to him because we're struggling offensively, isolate him, spread the court out and let him do his thing. They're a better team when they share the ball. Tonight they had 31 assists. That's a phenomenal number. It's a number that they really haven't even come close to hitting most of this season. And it's no surprise that when you have that many assists, you shoot 51% from the field, you're going to be in a great position to win this game.
Yep.
So yes, I do think that Harrison Barnes needs to be more aggressive on a night-to-night basis offensively. I think that when he got hurt, he was really struggling to get back in a rhythm. I feel like the foot was probably bothering him more than it really was apparent at the time. I think he's a lot healthier now. You can tell he looks a little bit more explosive in his first step and getting to the basket. And he's started to shoot a lot better from outside as well, which has really, really been a big key for him. But he's never going to be the guy, that puts up, even when Luke Walton said, I want him to shoot 8 threes a game. That's not the type of player that he is.
Yeah,
he knows exactly what his role is on this team. He's not the type of guy that the Kings needed to rely on to score 30 points a night. So, when you look at the box score, you think, oh, well, he didn't really have that great of a game, but he was 4 for 7 from the field. He was 2 for 4 from 3. De'Aaron Fox was getting to the free throw line at will. I felt like he did a really, really solid job tonight. He had 1 steal and 2 blocks. He's just a really good complementary piece. And the fact that the Kings aren't a good or a better team overall kind of overshadows what he brings to the table, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. All right, Mike, good to see you. What is it now? Vang, have a good night. Cole, what are you doing here? It's good to see you, Cole. I know we're on late tonight, so if some of you guys need to take off, I totally understand. We're in a different time zone, so it's still early for us. So we're going to keep talking here for a little bit longer. All right, so let's move on here and talk about Tyrese Halliburton. 35 minutes for him tonight. Career high in assists with 12. Only 9 points for him tonight. Only took 6 shots. He kind of reminds me of like LeBron James. If you were to count how many almost triple-doubles LeBron had in his career, it would be incredible. But he's not a guy like Russell Westbrook. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if he's assist shy or a point shy. And I see the same thing out of Tyrese Halliburton. I would like him to be a little bit more aggressive, but, I like the fact that he's not going to try and score 1 or 2 more points just to get a double-double. And I know if he got the double-double tonight, everyone would be talking about it. Wow, Halliburton's had, a double-double in 5 of the last 7 games, and the Kings win, and, youngest player to do this and all this stuff. But I want to hear what your thoughts are on Tyrese's game tonight.
I really liked what I saw from him. He's reached a point now to me where I'm never concerned about him. Obviously, there are parts of his game that I feel like he needs to improve upon, and he's going, this is only he's midway through his second year, so he's going to continue to take steps in the right direction. But he's a very smart player. I think he recognized early on tonight that Buddy Hield had it going, and that's probably one of the biggest differences. You look at the last few games where Tyrese has been the leader or at the top of the Kings' field goal attempts. Buddy Hield, his field goal attempts have really shrunk in those games. Tonight, Buddy Hield got it going early on. Tyrese saw that, and he said, all right, we're just going to keep feeding you, and you keep taking the shots. He still had the really nice floaters there in the second half in critical moments. I think he's finally past the point where people have been on him so much ever since he was in college, probably even when he was in high school, about not shooting enough. I think he's finally realized, okay, I need to get up a certain number of shots, or I need to take the right types of shots throughout the course of the game. But he's also got the genetic disposition of, if somebody else is hot, that person keeps getting the ball. And that's the definition of a true point guard right there.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Cole. We appreciate the support. Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite attributes about him, is that he makes the right play. Everyone's obsessed with Jordan, with Kobe, about these guys because they have the killer instinct and they always want to take the last shot. Well, I don't remember exactly the quote from Jordan, but you remember the quote where he's like, I've missed, 5,000 shots in my career, but it doesn't matter. I'm still going to take another one.
Yeah.
And that's a good mindset to have if you're going to be that guy But, you know, I've always been a fan of guys that are willing to make the right play. They want to find somebody who's open, and they want to empower their teammates. And I think that is so strong, especially from a guy that's as young as him, that he understands that. I think that's huge.
Well, and it also just outlines how different of players those types of people are, right? I mean, for Jordan and Kobe, no matter how many game-winning shots they've missed, them taking the game-winning shot is 9 times out of 10 going to still be the right play. Doesn't matter whether they're covered, doesn't matter whether they're double covered. It's still going to be the right play. But for people like Tyrese Halliburton or Magic Johnson or Isaiah Thomas or
De'Aaron
you know,
Fox.
there's a wide range of people who sometimes you are going to say, well, yes, they should take the last shot if the opportunity presents itself. But just like we saw with De'Aaron Fox the other night when he passes to Chimezie Metu in the corner for a game-winning 3, that was the right play.
Yeah, I want to talk about your keys to the game here in a second and then move on. But before we do that, is there anything you want to talk about as far as Metu and Davion Mitchell tonight?
I thought Davion was really, really good. It was just one of those games where he was hitting from the field consistently. And, you know, his role on this team is somewhat construed or you know, not quite fully developed for me. He's not especially now that they have De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton healthy, they just need him to go out there and score points. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to be a true playmaker in the true definition of the word. He's got to play great defense, and he has to be good on the offensive end. He's got to knock down shots and take advantage of mismatches when he gets a bigger guy on him because he's so quick and so good at getting to the basket. I think the next step for him is trying to figure out how to develop it more as a playmaker. And I don't know how easily that's going to be done on a team when he plays behind 2 really good playmaking point guards. But that's another conversation for another day. Today, I thought he was really good, and that's because he hit his shots.
And the way that they've been staggering the minutes between Fox and Halliburton,
right.
They always have a playmaker on the court, so we don't need to see Davion controlling the ball as much.
Yes.
We did see Kyle Guy tonight. Afghan says, Kyle Guy did more for Miami than he ever did for us. LOL. I don't know. You know, I remember him hitting that game winner over Golden State.
I believe that was a preseason game.
That was pretty good. I thought it was in December.
I think it was a preseason game.
Who knows these days what date is what game and all that. You know, they've shifted the schedules around so much. But it was good to see Kyle Guy. And It was good to see Stauskas for what it was.
Yeah. I just find it funny that the Miami Heat, of all teams, are the ones signing these types of guys to 10-day contracts when we see all the other teams are just like
random guy off the street.
Like, oh, yeah, I'll take that one over there. But yet Miami, they've got these guys who are they fit that team perfectly. Stauskas and Kyle Guy, like, that's exactly the type of people that the Miami Heat would want on their team, even if they're only for 10 days and they're not going to use them after that.
There was a guy this week I saw. I don't know if it was was it Darren Collison? There was somebody who got an offer and they didn't believe their agent. They're like, no, nobody's offering me a 10-day contract. What are you talking about?
Stevenson just got signed by the Pacers.
Yeah. And that's the only place he plays well.
Yeah.
All right, you want to jump here into your keys for the Heat game, and then we'll move on to the next section.
Yeah. Key number 1 was points in the paint, which is always a key for the Kings. They didn't exactly have their best outing tonight. The Miami Heat are a really good defensive team, and they're really good at defending the paint. But they're last in the league in blocks per game. They didn't have Bam Adebayo tonight, so I felt like that was an area they could take advantage of. The Heat still outscored them 54-46 in the paint. Key number 2 was guard the 3. Miami is 4th in the NBA in three-point percentage, and tonight they did not shoot that well. They were just 9 of 33 from the field, 27%. Some of that was contesting shots. Some of it was the Heat just missed them. They had a lot of wide-open looks. And number 3 was win the turnover battle. These teams are very, very close in terms of turnovers per game. The Kings did not win this either. 16 turnovers to just 9 for the Miami Heat. Yet, when you shoot 51% from the field, you outshoot the opposing team by 15 at the free throw line, and you still convert on 80% of those free throws. That's going to be a big...
Buddy Hield makes 7 threes, and Jimmy Butler misses the game-tying shot at the end.
Yeah.
Equals Kings victory. All right, anything else you want to talk about here before we move on?
Just happy that the Kings won a competitive game.
I'm really happy. It was a great win.
It was. This was a very, I mean, it's just one game. You don't want to get too high on this or too low on this either way, but this was a really good win against a very good team despite the pieces that they were missing. They still had a lot of their key players. They still made this game difficult. The Kings had every opportunity to let this just crumble at their feet, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, one game. They did it this year. It's surprising. I had a lot more energy 4 hours ago after the game. I was way more excited, but you know how work just kind of sucks it out of you sometimes.
Yes, I do.
So I'll try and pick it up here for the next section. We're going to take a quick break, real quick, and then when we come back, we're going to talk some more about your Sacramento Kings.